Hello. Um, Welcome to your first online lecture. This is completely new, obviously for us, and it's probably completely new for you as well. Um, my name's Richard. In case some people didn't turn up or forgot who I was for whatever reason, I am going to be doing website development for the next few months. It should be up until about Christmas-ish time. Obviously, because this is new, there will be some technical problems. Obviously, we will try and get through them as quickly and easily as we can. Please bear in mind that if something doesn't work or you feel like this is not working, just let us know and we will try and change it. So if you think I want this added into the video or want a different way of doing it, just give us an example. So just go into the classroom and just tell us what you think you want, and we'll try and sort it the best you can. Like, just give us suggestions. That's what this is all about. Like, we're all new to this. It's really uncharted territory. So please bear with us. If there's any technical problems, we'll try and sort it. So yeah, that being said, I'm gonna go straight into your first website lesson. So let's go. Um, Website production. So I will be putting up a video of probably theory every week and also doing coding every week. Obviously, time permitting, we need to get this done for December, so we need to get this done basically before Christmas. After Christmas, the exam board will be coming in to have a look at your work. So we have got a tiny bit of time in January, but I would not want to go past December because usually when we have gone past December before in the past, it doesn't go well for some people, and some people will fail if they don't get it in. That being said, if you're panicking and thinking, "Oh my God, I've not done this and I'm not going to pass and what have you," just tell us. Like, we can sort things out. So don't think that before you've even started you're going to fail, or I cannot do this because I can't keep up with the workflow. Just let us know if we're going too fast or you need something different. Just let us know. As I've said before, like, it's all new to us. Right. Some people will have seen this before. This is the spec which I will put on the Google Classroom so you can have a look at it. This is what you will be graded against for your website course, and obviously the other units that's running as well. Sorry, units, not courses. It's split into passes, merits, and distinctions. Um, Everybody has to do the bare minimum pass criteria. So as you can see, the 7 pass criteria on here. You will need to do all these pass criteria. For those of you going for merits and distinctions, if you want a distinction, you have to get all the merits as a prerequisite. So you have to get everything to get a distinction. I'm hoping that everybody does want to go for distinction because that's one of the reasons why you're here. You should really be going for the high marks, and I believe everybody can do it. Considering that, say, the first merit is produce annotated design documentation, that just literally means make your design docs more detailed, then I don't see why nobody could get it. Like, you can all get it, you just need to put the effort in. So if you put the effort in, you will get a lot out of it. But obviously, if you don't and you just get bare minimum passes, that's up to you. But I think everybody is capable of at least getting a merit or even distinction. But today we'll be looking at hardware and software components that enable web functionality. So we'll go over how this works. It is an assignment I'll be setting in the first week. So I'll be expecting a report on P1, and that will obviously be graded. It's a official piece of coursework, so it will be going off to your exam board after it's finished. So it does need to be of good quality. Just bear in mind that you cannot copy. If you copy at all and we find out, we'll be sending it straight back with a warning. And if you keep doing it, obviously we've already talked about this, but potentially it could be removal from the course. Obviously, that said, you can use things online. Please just reference it. So if you are going to find a piece of information you think, "Oh, that looks good," just reference it. So that means that you copy the URL or book, if you are going to read a book, from where it's from, and literally you put at the end of your document where you found that information under a title called references. Please make sure that you research this and thoroughly like give reasoning to it, your answers. If you come back and say a website is Google and then leave it at that as a line, it will be getting sent straight back to you again. But again, if you feel like you're struggling, just let us know. As I say, we're not going to bite your head off if you are genuinely struggling with it. But if you are saying I'm staying up till ridiculous o'clock at night and then trying to complete the work, obviously we will have problems. Right, so P1, hardware and software components. So for P1, you need to talk about these 5 things. So you need to talk about hardware, which is server and routers, and software, which are browsers, communications, and web. I will go over in more detail what these things are. It's just to let you know that this is what you'll be graded against. And I have put something in Classroom that you'll be able to see, and it's just a rundown of what you need to write for each. So I'm going to go over in detail how these work. So a little background knowledge. The World Wide Web, this basically is how websites work on the internet. So the World Wide Web is not the internet, it is a separate entity. The World Wide Web operates within the internet, but it's not actually the internet itself. So it's just a part of the internet. Because obviously the World Wide Web does not count, say, for example, emails. Emails are another part of the internet. It's not part of the World Wide Web. So you need to be careful. If you say the World Wide Web and the internet are the same thing, that is not true. I will go over that in a later video because you need to for another pass criteria, but we're not doing that today. So if you look at the bottom, this little blue link here, this is an example of a URL, so Uniform Resource Locator. This basically says, right, where in the world is this? So where on the internet is this? And it'll say, right, it's at CERN, and if people know what CERN is, that's in Switzerland. They've got a big Hadron Collider. They're doing a lot of experiments there at the minute. And it's saying that the file you're looking for is stored in a hypertext folder under www folder, and the actual file itself is called project.html. Now you might be thinking, well, what's HTML? HTML is the language that's used to actually build websites. So hypertext markup language, HTML. Obviously you can look this up as well, but hypertext markup language, that's the language we'll be using to code with as well when we're doing our websites later on. It uses something called HTTP, and as you can see at the beginning of this link, it uses HTTP. What HTTP actually is that web pages need to obviously travel across the internet, but there needs to be a set of rules for it to do that, so then you either don't lose the web page or it doesn't get corrupt or anything like that. So say we have the internet here, let's call it internet, and then say we've got a web server with a website on it, and we'll say it's Google. So say this is Google and it's connected up here to the internet, and you're connected to the internet from your home computer. My drawing skills are slightly getting better as time's going on, which is good. So you've got your computer at home. You ask to, so you type in, I want to go to Google, or want to see Google's website. This will send something into the internet. So your URL, you'll use a URL. This will then check the internet, and the internet will basically direct you to the right place, which is the server, and on here will be web pages that you can access. Now obviously there's a lot of different web pages. For example, when you go to a website, usually it'll have a home page. So say we're going to take the home page. This will then be sent back through here. So the home page. And then obviously you can view it in your computer in your browser. So your browser window with your little da la la, and then whatever's on the screen. So HTTP is Hypertext Transfer Protocol. It basically runs all this. So it basically says, right, this is how we're going to send the web page back. So as you can sort of see, this home here, this home, this will use HTTP to go from the server all the way through the internet and then back to your computer there. So HTTP is just a set of rules that your computer uses and the internet uses in order to transfer your HTML file, which is your web page, and view it on your computer. So that's a basic rundown of how HTML pages are transferred from one device to another. Obviously, it doesn't have to necessarily be a server to a computer. It could be computer to a computer. You can run a website on a computer, as long as it's got storage and it's got an internet space. Sorry, not an internet space. It's got access to the internet. Then you can make your own website and other people can view it. So that's basically a quick rundown of how this works. So if we go back onto here, this is just a quick basic overview. If you're wondering who this gentleman was on the right, by the way, this is Sir Tim Berners-Lee. He is the creator of the internet, essentially, and basically built the first World Wide Web page, which I'm going to throw up now so you can see it. Oops, that's the wrong one. As I say, bear in mind, this is completely brand new to me, so there will be some technical issues, but that's not a bad one. Right, so this is the very first web page. It is incredibly basic. There is nothing on here apart from text. There's no real colours or anything like that. There's no format to it. There's just links and information. If you click a link, it takes you to another HTML page. As you can see up here, it's changed to top.html. But again, it's the same thing of there's no formatting. It's literally just text, and it's only got hyperlinks on it, and that is it. So this is an example of Web 1.0. You cannot interact with it apart from looking at other web pages. Now we'll go over this in a second as to what this actually is. So if you're interested, I have put this on the PowerPoint so you can have a look at it. It is very interesting to see how it works. It's very, very basic, but you could probably make that in about 10 minutes now. Probably less than that. So, components. We will be looking at hardware, so servers, and I will go over that again later in the video. You should have... Some of you will probably have heard of servers before, but we will go into it in more detail, and you will need to write about it. Routers, again, if you're accessing this at home, everybody will probably have a router to access the internet. I will again go over this later in the video. Software, so browser, again, you're probably using a browser to actually look at this video, bizarrely enough, and I've obviously mentioned it a little bit before, so again I will go over this in more detail in a bit. And Web 2.0 I will save for when we actually get to it. I've already mentioned Web 1.0. So, communications. You will need to do a definition of what communications are. So, it's literally just transfer of data from one device to another. Now, you will need to write that as a definition, but you need to give an example. So, you could say, well, for example, if we go back onto this, you could just say, right, it's between one computer and another, so one computer and another computer, so two computers, and sending data between each other. So that could be the basic definition, but you will need to also write about communication in terms of how it transfers web files, which was all this stuff up here. So all this stuff up here. You'll need to explain that for communication. So you'll need to say how it transfers data from one PC or one web page from one PC or server to another across the internet, and that is the basic definition of what that is. So obviously you've probably heard of networks as well. You will need to briefly mention what a network is. Again, this is just two or more computers or devices that are connected usually through the internet. It can be connected through a LAN, which is a local area network. Some of you may have heard of LAN before, but LAN is just connecting computers up together that are in the same building usually. They can be across buildings, but a LAN is normally within one area. So a LAN is a local area network. Again, you can look that up, but it's just a connection between two PCs. Again, you can run a website on a LAN, so you can mention that, but obviously you need to say a network is either two or more devices or computers connected to each other either wirelessly or through a cable that can transfer data between one another. Emails, a lot of you will have been using emails, especially over if you were over the lockdown period. Some of you might have actually done it, but emails are obviously just they're not the same as web pages. They are different on how they're actually made up, but that is a way of communicating with people over the internet as well. It doesn't use the World Wide Web. It uses other things like POP. If you may have heard of POP somewhere, you don't need to write about emails as much. You might need to write about emails, I think, in Josh's unit, which is communicating in IT. I think you will need to write about emails in more detail, but he will go over that. So, Web 2.0. Now, I mentioned Web 1.0, which was the really basic web page, which, if we go back to it, is this one. So, this basic web page is Web 1.0 because it's only got text and links, so you can only look at web pages, you can't interact with them in any way. However, if we go to, say, Google Classroom, this is my Google Classroom, so this is yours that I'll be putting the work on. You can see that I'm logged in, and you can see that my email's there, and I am logged into this system, and it's bringing through things that are for me. So, potentially speaking, this URL at the top, if you were to put this in yourself, you will get your own version of this. So you will be able to see this classroom, but you will see different things to what I can see. So this is a example of Web 2.0. So Web 2.0 is websites that are interactive and are designed around each individual user when they go onto it. So obviously, if you log in, that would mean that it's got Web 2.0 functionality. So this is something you will need to talk about, the difference between Web 1.0 and 2.0, and you do need to give examples. Again, I have left that on your assignment. You will see it on your assignment. It'll ask you to explain Web 1.0 and 2.0 and how they are different. So, that's communication. So Web 2.0, as I've said, I've already talked about this. It's on this PowerPoint if you need it, and I will put it onto the classroom so you can see it. So servers. So the whole point of a server, hence why it's called a server, is that it actually does a purpose. So it does something for a network or a user or an organization. So as you can see, a web server just provides websites to people that connect to it. That's all it does. It just houses your website, so all your website files are stored on that server and people can connect to it. Now, if you think about Amazon or Google or any really big companies like that, they will have servers that can manage millions of people at any one time. So that's why they only do one function. You may think, well, that's a bit simple, just being able to have just one server do one thing, but that's the reason why. It's because they've got millions of people connecting to it all the time, and you will need to mention this. So, obviously, there's other servers available, and what companies will usually do is they will have a number of these servers all together, and they will all do different purposes. So they might have a web server, they might have an email server, they might have a proxy server. It's just so they lighten the load on each server, because obviously if you've got one server running all them services, it will struggle, and especially with the more people that go on it, the amount of people that go on it, it will struggle. So that's why you have separate servers for separate things. So like we've already discussed, you will need to write about a web service. You need to explain how the web server works. It literally just stores your web page, and then when somebody comes to view it, it will send the web page through to them when they've requested it, and that is all there is. An IP address, you've probably seen before, but an IP address is a set of numbers that identifies your computer on a network. So I'll just quickly show you what I mean by this. So an IP address, put simply, is it's kind of like a address for your computer. Obviously, that's why it's called an IP address, but it's like a house number. So, like with mail and stuff like that, like actual letters you get through your post, the post will have, say, number 12, say Babbage Way or something, and then it might have a postcode on it, so whatever. All this information says on the letter right, it needs to go to this house in the middle of, say, 400 or 500 of them, depending on how big the street is. With the internet, it's the exact same problem, because how do you say which computer is which on the internet? You need some way of saying, right, this computer is this. Otherwise, how can you tell where things need to be sent or how to find things? And the way that is done is through something called IP addresses. So an IP address usually will look something like this: 192.168.1.1, and it'll say that's this one. The next computer might be .168.1.2. So you don't need to know about IP addressing. If this looks scary and you think, oh my god, this is maths, like I don't want anything to do with this, don't worry. You don't have to learn the maths of it. You just need to learn the concept that computers use numbers like these, so just these numbers, to figure out which computer is which. Now, on the internet, what happens is this number for a website gets changed into, that's a terrible W at the beginning. So this number gets changed into something that's more recognizable. I will talk about this later, but basically that's what a DNS server will do, a domain name server. We'll talk about that in another video. But if we were to have a look, there is a DNS server on here. Again, I'm not going to talk about it in this video, but you can mention that this server is used for just transferring IP addresses into URLs. You don't need to talk about all of these. You need to mention a web server, but say there are other servers available, so at least mention one other. You could even mention email servers and say this is just a server used for sending emails in and out to people. So an email server will store emails that people send out onto it, and then when people log into their emails, it will send them the email that was sent to them from the other user. So I say you don't need to talk about these a lot. I would expect you to have a little research of the others and see what they are. We will be talking about DNS in a lot more detail later, but if you want to look at proxy servers or DHCP servers, you can talk about them if you want, but you don't need to actually put that in your work. You do need to put one of them in your work and just explain that there are different types of servers available, and then say such as email or proxy or DNS, but just explain very briefly what they are. But you will need to explain how a web server works. So I've put at the bottom here again, so HTTP request, HTML. CSS is something I will go over in the coding video. I'm not going to go over it here, but essentially that gives you formatting for your web, I was going to say website, but your web page. So again, I'll go over that in a later video. Right, so quickly, web servers, we've already talked about this. I'm not going to go over it again because obviously I've already talked about it earlier in the video. I will leave this on so you can read it in your own time. It's fairly straightforward. If you have any problems with it, just let me know, but it is really straightforward on how things are transferred between one PC and another. Again, I've got some more information about mail servers and proxy servers. You don't need to talk about these in massive amounts of detail. It's just to sort of give you an idea of what they are. Again, if you want to have a look at them or research them, please do. Right, a router. Now, many people will have routers at home. Essentially what these are just devices that will direct you as to where you need to go on the internet. Essentially it is a ticket. Like if you were going onto a plane, it will say, right, which country you're going to, and which route are you going to take. Because obviously, if any of you have ever been abroad, if you're going to different countries, sometimes you have to go through the countries, or you can just go directly there. That's the exact same with the internet. It will choose a route that it thinks is best to get to its destination. So that's what the router will do. The router will be like, right, this is the way we need to go. And I'll quickly show you as well. Obviously, you should have one at home, so you can mention what this one is. If it's a BT router, a Virgin router, Sky router, anything like that, just say what type of router it is, and then it gives you internet access, which obviously it does. And you can connect to it wirelessly or wired. Obviously, it depends on what type of router setup you've got, but usually it's wireless in most homes now to make it easier for things to move around. They use things called data packets. So as you can see, I've sort of talked about it a little bit here. So data packets. If we go on to the drawing, so the way packets of data quickly work is that you've got a computer and you've got another computer connected to it. Now, when I said before that it sends data down the line, it does. So say like this computer is contacting this one or sending something to it. It doesn't. If you've ever downloaded anything before, you'll know that it downloads in megabytes or bytes or anything like that. But essentially what it does is send little chunks of it through. So this one might be 1 megabyte, this one might be 1 megabyte, this one might be 1 megabyte. But obviously together, these make up 3 megabytes, and that might be the full download. So this 3, oops, can I undo that? Can undo that? But this 3 here will be the entire total download, but it might be split up into packets. Everything on the internet is split into smaller packets, so these little squares, these little packets, that's how data is transferred on the internet. They are split up into little bite-sized chunks and they travel across. What might happen, and it does happen, if your internet connection drops or something happens while things are travelling through it, you might lose one of these packets. Now, this isn't a problem because your computer will pick up this broken packet and it will realise it's broken and be like, oh no, this isn't right, and it will basically just tell this other computer that's sending it, just send me the exact same one again. Can you just please send again? And a lot of computers do this now without you even realising. It does it automatically. So if anything ever drops, you will never notice it. It will just literally re-download it as fast as it lost it. It's infinitesimal. You never really see it. So the basic idea is packets transferred. So when we're talking about routers, for example, let's get rid of all this. So you've got the internet, and you've also got a router here. So say that's a router. Say that's a router. Little Wi-Fi things coming off it. And then you've got your PC connected to it here. And obviously PC connected to it here as well. So the way this works, when you send data down the line, this router will be like, right, it needs to go over to this router, but it needs to find where it needs to go. So there might be multiple points within the internet, and because this is why it's called a router, so this router here will see that, right, this might be the best route to get across. That's all it is. Literally, the router is just there for routing through the internet. It literally routes the data you're sending from this computer all the way through to the other side. And this also does the same thing. So this one also does the exact same thing. It just picks up data, says, right, it's from here, is this correct? And then if it is correct and everything checks out as correct, it'll send it to your computer. And also does the opposite. So literally they just find routes through the internet and then just come back to each other. That's all a router is. That's why it's called a router. It's literally as simple as that. There's nothing massively complicated about it. So you will need to quickly explain that it forwards these packets. You could even, if you want to use images, please do. Like, images are really helpful to show that you actually understand what is going off. This is the thing. You have got to prove to an examiner, so not us, so not your tutors. You have to prove to somebody else who you'll never meet ever, who will not know who you are, will not know how you work. You need to show them that you know what you are talking about, and they will know what they're talking about as well. So if they read it and think this is complete and utter nonsense, they will just ignore it. If you put pictures in, it will help loads. So please put pictures in because it is very helpful. But yeah, so that's what you'd need to write for a router. Now, web applications, this is something we'll need to write later on, but not for now. But I'm just going to quickly mention it. So if you're using something like Google Docs or Google Slides or anything online that requires an internet connection, you will sorry, not an internet connection, anything that requires a browser to work, so an actual browser, you will need to use an application. Now, an online web application obviously is just something that is used through the web. I will go over this in more detail. It's just interesting to know, that's all, because a lot of people seem to look at it and think, oh, it's just a website. It's not. It's an actual application that's online, so just bear that in mind. I must have gone past browsers. I didn't mean to. So I'll quickly go over browsers because this is something that you'll need to learn as well. I don't know how I skipped this, but it just kind of went through. So a browser is something that you use to view what's on the internet. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but browsers can be used for more than just looking at web pages. Technically speaking, if anybody's ever heard of FTP, that's file transfer protocol, you can transfer files through it. I'm not going to go over that in much detail, but essentially browsers are a piece of software that allows you to access the internet. Majority of the time you're going to use a browser to actually view web pages, but you can view other aspects of the internet as well. So it uses HTML, as I've said before, to sort of look at the language and think, right, this is how this website looks and what I need to display on the screen. It will use something called CSS, which I've obviously mentioned previously. This is called a cascading style sheet, which we'll look at in more detail. But a cascading style sheet is essentially just used for formatting. So if you want to format your actual website or format your web page, you will use CSS, and I will show you how this works in a different video. JavaScript is another programming language which I believe you will do with Paul at some point. JavaScript is a very useful language for browsers. You can run quite a lot of things in it. A lot of games use JavaScript on web browsers, and we'll probably have a quick go at using it at some point. You'll need to give a definition of a browser, and you'll also need to give an example of a browser. So I imagine a lot of people use Chrome, which is obviously Google's browser, but there are other things like Microsoft Edge or Opera or Safari. Like, there's all sorts of other ones. You cannot mention Internet Explorer anymore because that is now gone. It doesn't exist anymore. If you still have it on your computer, it's probably because you've not updated your computer in a while, but officially it doesn't exist anymore, so you cannot talk about it. It doesn't exist, so do not mention Internet Explorer. But yeah, browsers obviously need to be updated. If you don't keep them updated, you can have problems with them, which is why obviously if you don't, you could be open to all sorts of different hacking methods. That's why obviously you need to keep things up to date. But that's more or less it. I will just quickly show you again. So on here, I will be putting up this, which is P1. This is your assignment that you will need to do. So make sure you read it. You can view it and then you can upload work to it, but I'm expecting a minimum of about 500 words for the entire thing, which, to be honest, is not a lot. That's very light compared to what your counterparts are doing in the years above you. they are doing nearly 1,000 words for each assignment, so you are getting very lucky with it. But you need to make sure it's detailed. If you write complete and utter waffle, I will send it straight back to you. So you need to make sure that you write your own words and it's coherent and it looks good. But yeah, just let me know if anything doesn't work, and we'll try and sort it as best we can. So then that's it. Hopefully this video's gone alright. If you have any suggestions, just let me know. I will probably put up another video on coding as well, just so you can have a quick look. That's not going to be needed for this week in terms of being handed in, but I would like you to hand in the first assignment that I've put on this week. It shouldn't take that long. It should literally take you all of a day, if that, to do it. I know Paul and Joshua will be putting stuff up, but I don't think they're doing anything too strenuous. This isn't too strenuous. This is really straightforward and easy. So if you need any help, let me know on Tuesday or in the Q&A on Thursday morning. So thank you very much. I will see everybody on Tuesday. Hope everybody has a good attempt at this anyway, and look forward to reading it. Bye.